Our mind is enriched by what we receive, our heart by what we give. The great acts of love are done by those who are habitually performing small acts of kindness. Don't educate your children to be rich. Educate them to be happy, so they know the value of things, not the price. When dictatorship is a fact, revolution becomes a right. Change your opinions, keep to your principles, change your leaves, keep intact your roots. If you look in the eyes of the young, you see flame. If you look in the eyes of the old, you see light. Between the government which does evil and the people who accept it, there is a certain shameful solidarity. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. The wise man does not grow old, but ripens. If you are stone, be magnetic. If a plant, be sensitive. But if you are human, be love. The future has several names. For the weak, it is impossible. For the faint-hearted, it is unknown. But for the valiant, it is ideal. Peace is the virtue of civilization. War is its crime. Go to sleep in peace. God is awake. Laughter is the sun that drives winter from the human face. Common sense is in spite of, not as the result of education. Let us fear ourselves. Prejudices are the real robbers, vices are the real murderers. The great dangers lie within ourselves. No army can withstand the strength of an idea whose time has come. To die is nothing, but it is terrible not to live. When a woman is talking to you, listen to what she says with her eyes. 40 is the old age of youth, 50 the youth of old age. He who is not master of his own thoughts is not accountable for his own deeds. What a grand thing, to be loved. What a grander thing still, to love. When God desires to destroy a thing, he entrusts its destruction to the thing itself. Every bad institution of this world ends by suicide. When God desires to destroy a thing, he entrusts its destruction to the thing itself. Every bad institution of this world ends by suicide. To love or have loved, that is enough. Ask nothing further. There is no other pearl to be found in the dark folds of life. To love or have loved, that is enough. Ask nothing further. There is no other pearl to be found in the dark folds of life. The learned man knows that he is ignorant. Those who do not weep, do not see. Initiative is doing the right thing without being told. Not being heard is no reason for silence. Love would never be a promise of a rose garden unless it is showered with light of faith, water of sincerity, and air of passion. Sometimes we make love with our eyes. Sometimes we make love with our hands. Sometimes we make love with our bodies. Always we make love with our hearts. If I could reach up and hold a star for every time you've made me smile, the entire evening sky would be in the palm of my hand. To love another person is to see the face of God. There are fathers who do not love their children. There is no grandfather who does not adore his grandson. The wicked envy and hate, it is their way of admiring. The future has many names. For the weak, it means the unattainable. For the fearful, it means the unknown. For the courageous, it means opportunity. The greatest happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved, loved for ourselves, or rather, loved in spite of ourselves. Knowledge is a weight added to conscience. To give thanks in solitude is enough. Thanksgiving has wings and goes where it must go. Your prayer knows much more about it than you do. A smile is the same as sunshine. It banishes winter from the human countenance. In joined hands there is still some token of hope, and the clenched fist none. The rich's paradise was created by the poor's hell. Nothing makes a man so adventurous as an empty pocket. Certain thoughts are prayers. There are moments when, whatever be the attitude of the body, the soul is on its knees. I think, therefore I doubt. Religion, society, and nature, these are the three struggles of man. God is behind everything, but everything hides God. Diamonds are to be found only in the darkness of the earth, and truth in the darkness of the mind. If I speak, I am condemned. If I stay silent, I am damned. Sorrow is a fruit. God does not make it grow on limbs too weak to bear it. Adversity makes men, and prosperity makes monsters. When a man is out of sight, it is not too long before he is out of mind. Teach the ignorant as much as you can. Society is culpable in not providing a free education for all, and it must answer for the night which it produces. If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but he who causes the darkness. The human soul has still greater need of the ideal than of the real. It is by the real that we exist. It is by the ideal that we live. The most terrible of motives and the most unanswerable of responses, because you look at a star for two reasons, because it is luminous and because it is impenetrable. You have beside you a sweeter radiance and a greater mystery, woman. The heart becomes heroic through passion. It is no longer composed of anything but what is pure. It no longer rests upon anything but what is elevated and great. An intelligent hell would be better than a stupid paradise. Fame must have enemies, as light must have gnats. God has set his intentions in the flowers, in the dawn, in the spring. It is his will that we should love. Not seeing people permits us to imagine them with every perfection. It is often our best friends who throw us down. Her soul trembled on her lips like a drop of dew on a flower. Nihilism has no substance. There is no such thing as nothingness, and zero does not exist. Everything is something. Nothing is nothing. God has made the cat to give man the pleasure of caressing the tiger. Wisdom is the health of the soul. You preserve your shame, but you kill your glory. Reason is intelligence taking exercise. Imagination is intelligence with an erection. Youth is the future smiling at a stranger, which is itself. These are true felicities. No joy beyond these joys. Love is the only ecstasy. Everything else weeps our acts make or mar us. We are the children of our own deeds. Solitude either develops the mental power or renders men dull and vicious. The delight we inspire in others has this enchanting peculiarity that, far from being diminished like every other reflection, it returns to us more radiant than ever. Nothing is more dangerous than discontinued labor. It is habit lost. A habit easy to abandon, difficult to resume. Emotion is always new and the word has always served. Therein lies the difficulty of expressing emotion. To rise from error to truth is rare and beautiful. To have lied is to have suffered. Sacrificing the earth for paradise is giving up the substance for the shadow. We would be ashamed of our best behavior if the people knew the motives of our behaving so. Joy's smile is much closer to tears than laughter. Pain is as diverse as man. One suffers as one can. Earnestness is the salt of eloquence. Well, for us, in history where goodness is a rare pearl, he who was good almost takes precedence over he who was great. Society is a republic. When an individual tries to lift themselves above others, they are dragged down by the mass, either by ridicule or slander. He did not study God, he was dazzled by him. Curiosity is one of the forms of feminine bravery. There is no vacuum in the human heart. Certain demolitions take place, and it is well that they do, but on condition that they are followed by reconstructions. The first symptom of true love in a man is timidity, in a young woman, boldness. This is surprising, and yet nothing is more simple. It is the two sexes tending to approach each other and assuming each the other's qualities. Love is like a tree. It grows of its own accord. It puts down deep roots into our whole being. A creditor is worse than a slave owner, for the master owns only your person, but a creditor owns your dignity and can command it. But listen, there will be more joy in heaven over the tears of a repentant sinner than over the white robes of 100 just men. By putting forward the hands of the clock you shall not advance the hour. When the heart is dry, the eye is dry. Diamonds are found only in the dark places of the earth. Truths are found only in the depths of thought. Have courage for the great sorrows of life and patience for the small ones, and when you have laboriously accomplished your daily task, go to sleep in peace. What would be ugly in a garden constitutes beauty in a mountain. Reality in strong doses frightens. It is not enough to be happy, one must be content. It was SHE. Whoever has loved knows all the radiant meaning contained in the three letters of this word she. When you get an idea into your head, you find it in everything. Hypocrisy is nothing, in fact, but a horrible hopefulness. To love another person is to see the face of God. He never went out without a book under his arm, and he often came back with two. Youth, even in its sorrows, always has a brilliancy of its own. What matters deafness of the ear, when the mind hears? The one true deafness, the incurable deafness, is that of the mind. Winter is on my head, but eternal spring is in my heart. Caution is the eldest child of wisdom. One can resist the invasion of an army, but one cannot resist the invasion of ideas. Beauty is as useful as the useful. More so, perhaps. Lubo est aussi utile que l'utile. Plus peut-être. There is always more misery among the lower classes than there is humanity in the higher. Music expresses that which cannot be put into words. Do not let it be your aim to be something, but to be someone. The day that a woman who is passing before you sheds a light upon you as she goes, you are lost, you love. You have then but one thing to do, to think of her so earnestly that she will be compelled to think of you. To meditate is to labor, to think is to act. Folded arms work, closed hands perform, a gaze fixed on heaven is a toil. Emotion is always new. There is a secret drawer in every woman's heart. The three great problems of this century, the degradation of man in the proletariat, the subjection of women through hunger, the atrophy of the child by darkness. To live a life which is a perpetual falsehood is to suffer unknown tortures. He sought to transform the grief which looks down into the grave by showing it the grief which looks up to the stars. It is by suffering that human beings become angels. To sum up all, let it be known that science and religion are two identical words. The learned do not suspect this, no more do the religious. These two words express the two sides of the same fact, which is the infinite. Religion, science, this is the future of the human mind. You can give without loving, but you can never love without giving. The great acts of love are done by those who are habitually performing small acts of kindness. We pardon to the extent that we love. Love is knowing that even when you are alone, you will never be lonely again. And great happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved. Loved for ourselves. And even loved in spite of ourselves. What a gloomy thing, not to know the address of one's soul. A criminal remains a criminal whether he uses a convict's suit or a monarch's crown. The power of a glance has been so much abused in love stories that it has come to be disbelieved in. Few people dare now to say that two beings have fallen in love because they have looked at each other. Yet it is in this way that love begins, and in this way only. Where no plan is laid, where the disposal of time is surrendered merely to the chance of incident, chaos will soon reign. Success is a very hideous thing. Its false resemblance to merit deceives men. It seemed to be a necessary ritual that he should prepare himself for sleep by meditating under the solemnity of the night sky. A mysterious transaction between the infinity of the soul and the infinity of the universe. Night and the day, when united, bring forth the beautiful light. To rise at 6, to dine at 10, to sup at 6, to sleep at 10, makes a man live for 10 times 10. If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but the one who causes the darkness. The merciful precepts of Christ will at last suffuse the code, and it will glow with their radiance. Crime will be considered an illness with its own doctors to replace your judges and its hospitals to replace your prisons. Liberty shall be equated with health. Ointments and oil shall be applied to limbs that were once shackled and branded. Infirmities that once were scourged with anger shall now be bathed with love. The cross in place of the gallows, sublime and yet so simple. I write with one hand, but I fight with both. Not seeing people allows you to think of them as perfect in all kinds of ways. We pray together, we are afraid together, and then we go to sleep. Even if Satan came into the house, no one would interfere. After all, what is there to fear in this house? There is always one with us who is the strongest. Satan may visit our house, but the good Lord lives here. What is the cat? He exclaimed. It is a corrective. God, having made the mouse, said, I've made a blunder. And he made the cat. The cat is the erratum of the mouse. The mouse, plus the cat, is the revised and corrected proof of creation. I have been loving you a little more every minute since this morning. Brothers, he who dies here dies in the radiance of the future, and we are entering a tomb all flooded with the dawn. The Spirit of God, like the sun, always gives all its light at once. The spirit of man resembles the pale moon, which has its phases, its absences and its returns, its lucidity and its spots, its fullness and its disappearance, which borrows all its light from the rays of the sun, and which still dares to intercept them on occasion. Religions do a useful thing, they narrow God to the limits of man. Philosophy replies by doing a necessary thing, it elevates man to the plane of God. There are, as we know, powerful and illustrious atheists. At bottom, led back to the truth by their very force, they are not absolutely sure that they are atheists. It is with them only a question of definition, and in any case, if they do not believe in God, being great minds, they prove God. Everybody drags its shadow, and every mind its doubt. Love each other dearly always. There is scarcely anything else in the world but that, to love one another. In the 20th century, war will be dead, the scaffold will be dead, hatred will be dead, frontier boundaries will be dead, dogmas will be dead, man will live. He will possess something higher than all these: a great country, the whole earth, and a great hope, the whole heaven. Have no fear of robbers or murderers. They are external dangers, petty dangers. We should fear ourselves. Prejudices are the real robbers, vices the real murderers. The great dangers are within us. Why worry about what threatens our heads or our purses? Let us think instead of what threatens our souls. Let us study things that are no more. It is necessary to understand them, if only to avoid them. Nature is pitiless. She never withdraws her flowers, her music, her fragrance, and her sunlight from before human cruelty or suffering. Superstition, bigotry, and prejudice, ghosts though they are, cling tenaciously to life. They are shades armed with tooth and claw. They must be grappled with unceasingly, for it is a fateful part of human destiny that it is condemned to wage perpetual war against ghosts. A shade is not easily taken by the throat and destroyed. If God had intended that man should go backward, he would have given him eyes in the back of his head. I tried. But I feel that I haven't given utterance to the 1000th part of what lies within me. When I go to the grave, I can say, as others have said, I have finished my day's work. But I cannot say, I have finished my life. My day's work will begin again the next morning. The tomb is not a blind alley, it is a thoroughfare. It closes on the twilight, but opens on the dawn. I am a soul. I know well that what I shall render up to the grave is not myself. That which is myself will go elsewhere. Earth, thou art not my abyss. So your desire is to do nothing? Well, you shall not have a week, a day, an hour, free from oppression. You shall not be able to lift anything without agony. Every passing minute will make your muscles crack. What is feather to others will be a rock to you. The simplest things will become difficult. Life will become monstrous about you. To come, to go, to breathe will be so many terrible tasks for you. Your lungs will feel like 100-pound weight. He saw before him 2 roads, both equally straight, but he saw 2, and that terrified him who had never in his life known but one straight line. And, bitter anguish, these 2 roads were contradictory. In Shakespeare the birds sing, the bushes are clothed with green, hearts love, souls suffer, the cloud wanders, it is hot, it is cold, night falls, time passes, forests and multitudes speak, the vast eternal dream hovers over all. Sap and blood, all forms of the multiple reality, actions and ideas, man and humanity, the living and the life, solitudes, cities, religions, diamonds and pearls, dunghills and charnel houses, the ebb and flow of beings, the steps of comers and goers, all are on Shakespeare and in Shakespeare. Separated lovers cheat absence by 1,000 fancies which have their own reality. They are prevented from seeing one another and they cannot write, Nevertheless, they find countless mysterious ways of corresponding by sending each other the song of birds, the scent of flowers, the laughter of children. In this world, which is so plainly the antechamber of another, there are no happy men. The true division of humanity is between those who live in light and those who live in darkness. Our aim must be to diminish the number of the latter and increase the number of the former. That is why we demand education and knowledge. Everybody has noticed the way cats stop and loiter in a half-open door. Hasn't everyone said to a cat, "For heaven's sake, why don't you come in?" With opportunity half open in front of them, there are men who have a similar tendency to remain undecided between two solutions, at the risk of being crushed by fate abruptly closing the opportunity. The overprudent, cats as they are, and because they are cats, sometimes run more danger than the bold. If a man has his throat cut in Paris, it's a murder. If 50,000 people are murdered in the East, it is a question. This conflict between right and fact has endured since the origins of society. To bring the duel to an end, to consolidate the pure ideal with the human reality, to make the right peacefully interpenetrate the fact, and the fact the right, this is the work of the wise. Ecclesiastes names the Almighty, the Maccabees name the Creator, the Epistle to the Ephesians names the Liberty, Baruch names the Immensity, the Psalms name the Wisdom and Truth, John names the Light, the Book of Kings names the Lord, Exodus names the Providence, Leviticus Sanctity, Esdras Justice, Creation names the God, man names the Father. But Solomon names the Compassion, which is the most beautiful of all thy names. A cannonball travels only 2,000 miles an hour, light travels 200,000 miles a second. Such is the superiority of Jesus Christ over Napoleon. No doubt it was necessary to civilize man in relation to man. That work is already advanced and is making progress every day. But man must be civilized also in relation to nature. To pay compliments to the one we love is the first method of caressing, a demi-audacity venturing. A compliment is something like a kiss through a veil. He had not yet lived long enough to have discovered that nothing is more close at hand than the impossible, and that what must be looked for is always the unforeseen. The mother, swinging the children by pulling on a length of string, while at the same time she kept an eye on them with that protective watchfulness, half animal, half angelic, which is the quality of motherhood. Can human nature ever be wholly and radically transformed? Can the man whom God made good be made wicked by man? Can the soul be reshaped in its entirety by destiny and made evil because destiny is evil? Can the heart become misshapen and afflicted with ugly, incurable deformities under disproportionate misfortune, like a spinal column bent beneath a too low roof? Love partakes of the soul itself. It is of the same nature. Like it, it is a divine spark. Like it, it is incorruptible, indivisible, imperishable. It is the point of fire which is within us, which is immortal and infinite, which nothing can limit and nothing can extinguish. Our